If you are fasting to burn fat, then every mistake that you make can cost you results. One can actually make you slow your metabolism by as much as 50%, and another mistake can leave you with headaches, dizziness, and fatigue that will make you quit fasting altogether. One mistake can even make you 4 times more likely to binge eat when you finally break your fast. But here's the good news. When you learn how to avoid these mistakes, you can actually not only lose as much as 2 pounds per week, but also double the amount of visceral belly fat that you burn in the process. Stick around to the end of these mistakes because I'm also going to reveal the number 1 fasting mistake that stops fat loss dead in its tracks. Here's mistake number 7. One of the most common mistakes that I see with beginners is that they jump into aggressive. They hear about fasting, they get excited, and they decided to go 24 hours without food right out of the gate. What happens? Well, they feel miserable. Stress shoots up, blood sugar crashes, and by the end, they're either raiding the pantry or they're ready to throw in the towel altogether. And here's why. Your body doesn't know yet how to switch smoothly from burning carbs to burning fat. And that metabolic switch, it's like a muscle, has to be trained. If you push too hard before it's ready, you get dizziness, you get headaches, you get a crash that makes you want to quit or overeat. The better way is to ease in, that I found over the years and clinically teaching this to people for over a decade. Start by cutting your snacks. This will tighten your eating window to just a 12 to 14 hour window where specifically you're not snacking later at night. And that means finishing dinner early enough and then giving your body a true break before bed and then all the way until breakfast time. And then you're trying to cut out the snacking in between. So just solid 3 healthy meals a day. Then your next step is half-size breakfast, normal lunch, normal dinner. Then you could skip breakfast altogether, sort of an intermittent fasting, and narrow your eating window. Maybe only eat from noon until 6 or noon until 8, which means 16 hours of fasting. Now I'm going to explain what I believe the best way to do this is in just a moment. But each step that you just slowly ratchet down trains your metabolism to burn fat more efficiently without shocking your system. But if you're worried that that won't be enough fat loss, I have good news for you. Even those first small steps can create big results. One study found that people who simply shortened their eating window to 12 hours a day lost 7% of their body weight in just 8 weeks without doing anything extreme. Mistake number 6. Another big fasting mistake is not getting enough protein. A lot of people start fasting because they want to get rid of belly fat, but they don't realize that protein is one of the main keys. That's because if you don't eat the right amount at the right time, your body can burn through some muscle instead. Then the less muscle that you have, the slower the metabolism runs. And then the slower metabolism runs, the harder it becomes to lose belly fat. That's why protein is such a game changer. In one study, people who built protein into their fasting plan lost more than twice the belly fat compared to people who just cut calories only. And not only that, their cravings also went down in the process. It's because protein is one nutrient that truly satisfies you. It keeps you from hitting that wall where you cave to sugar and you cave to junk food. So how much protein do you need? The sweet spot is about 20 to 40 grams at a time, spaced throughout your eating window. You want to spread it out as much as you can because your body can't process much more than around 30 grams at a time. And if you're older, this becomes even more important because your body doesn't use protein as efficient. So if you skimp, you're putting your muscle and your metabolism at risk and an even bigger disadvantage. Mistake number 5. The next mistake people make is breaking their fast with the wrong food. Protein protects your muscle, but what you eat with it, that first meal, can decide whether or not your body keeps burning fat or slips back into storage mode. Here's the trap. If you break your fast with carbs alone, especially refined carbs like a bread or a cereal or a pastry or a pasta, your blood sugar can spike higher than if you hadn't fasted at all. Why? Because fasting leaves more fatty acids floating around in your blood. When you suddenly flood your system with sugar, your muscles can't absorb it very well. So it piles up really fast, flipping your body into fat storage mode. Protein changes that story. When it's part of your first meal, blood sugar stays steadier, insulin doesn't spike as high, your body keeps burning fat instead of storing it. But protein works best with the right partners. So include healthy fats, avocado, nuts, olive oil. These slow down digestion and further reduce the rise in blood sugar. and you can have a healthy fat exchange for a built-up toxic fat inside of you by putting in omega-3 fats like fish or fish oils. Loading up on omega-3s right after a fast is one of the best ways to detox bad fat out of your body. Check out my omega-3 EPA DHA fat detox below in a different video that I created to learn more about that. Also, include healthy carbs that are high in fiber. Things like beans, vegetables, whole grains, they have to be higher in fiber. It's that combination of protein first, followed by fats and fiber that keeps you from undoing all the hard work of fasting. And one last point, pace matters. You might feel starving after a fast, but if you plow through your food, your blood sugar will spike much higher than if you just take your time, enjoy the meal, ingest it, and digest it a little more slowly. Even though it's hard, try to eat slowly during that first meal following your fast. All right, mistake number 4 is next. It's another mistake that can make fasting miserable, is not hydrating properly. And I'm not just talking about water. If you've ever tried fasting and you felt headaches, dizziness, fatigue, chances are it wasn't just dehydration, it was your electrolytes. Here's what happens. When you stop eating, your body burns through its glycogen. That's the stored carbohydrate that's in your liver and it's in your muscles. And for every gram of glycogen, your body holds about 3 to 4 grams of water. So as the glycogen gets used up, the water goes with it, along with sodium and other electrolytes that your body needs. That's why people drop a few pounds really quickly at the start of a fast, because they lose so much water weight. But it's also why they feel so drained. Without sodium, potassium, magnesium, the whole system starts to feel it because of how important those electrolytes and minerals are to our body. Your brain fogs up, your muscles cramp, energy tanks, and as a result, a lot of people think that means fasting isn't for them, when in reality, they just need to refuel their electrolytes. Fortunately, this is a simple fix. Add a pinch of salt to your water. Eat mineral-rich foods during your eating windows. Dark leafy green vegetables, wild-caught fish, add in dairy products, milk, yogurt, or you can use targeted magnesium or electrolyte support to keep your levels steady and topped up, like my Livingood Daily Electrolytes. When your electrolytes are balanced, your metabolism makes the switch from burning carbohydrates to burning fat a whole lot more smooth without all those side effects. Mistake 3, electrolytes aren't the only thing that can make or break your fast. Another big mistake is fasting at the wrong time of day. Most people push their eating window later, meaning they skip breakfast, have lunch as their first meal, and then they keep eating until 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night. And on paper, still looks like fasting. I'm not saying it's not beneficial. It does work for many people, but biologically, it actually works against you. Here's why. The body's circadian rhythm is built to handle food earlier in the day, in the morning or in the early afternoon. You're actually more insulin sensitive at those times. That means your body can process food efficiently without spiking blood sugar. But by nighttime, hormones like melatonin rise, digestion slows, and then glucose tolerance plummets. So if you're eating later, you're far more likely to store fat. Clinical studies back this up. People who ate between 7 a.m. and 3 p.m., or in the window that I call night fasting, not only lost more belly fat, but they also improved insulin resistance, dropped blood pressure, and had fewer cravings compared to those who ate the same foods later in the day. The timing alone made the difference. That's why I recommend shifting your meals earlier and trying that out, especially if you're a seasoned faster. Start with a 10-hour window, like 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then once that starts to feel natural, tighten it to 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. or even 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. A simple shift like that aligns your fasting with your body's natural rhythm. It makes it easier to burn fat. It makes it easier to control your blood sugar and even sleep better at night. Number 2, another big mistake is assuming that if fasting works, then more fasting must be better. Here's what happens when you push too hard and too far. In research study, people who went a full week without food saw their metabolism slow by about 200 calories per day. By 3 weeks, the metabolism had dropped nearly 20%. In extreme cases, it fell by as much as 50%. Along with that slowdown came some muscle loss, sometimes more muscle than fat. And endurance also dropped about 10%. That's not your body burning fat. That's your body going into survival mode. Unfortunately, those dangers only showed up with extreme fasting times like a week or longer. I have done times that long, and there is a place for it, but most people don't have to go that route. A massive review of nearly 100 trials confirmed that whether people did time-restricted eating, a whole day of fasting, or alternate day fasting, all of the mainstream approaches were safe, and they all worked for weight loss. So here's what that means for you. Make night fasting your foundation. Eating meals earlier in the day and then fasting 12 to 16 hours. If you want to go longer, you can safely add in a full 24-hour fast once a week, twice a week, without any worry about slowing down your metabolism. And if you want, like I teach, you can even push to a 1, 2, or 3-day 72-hour fast, but just treat those longer fasts like a reset, or maybe do them after a vacation, something that you might do maybe once a month. Not all the time. They're powerful tools. Use them the correct way. And normally you don't have to go lengthy period of times to get the benefits of fasting. Now, that leads us to our number one fasting mistake. Before we get into it, if you've enjoyed the content so far, make sure you subscribe for more fat loss content that actually works. All right. The biggest mistake people make when fasting is overeating when they finally break their fast. This shows up most often when people go outside of their fasting comfort zone, pushing past a 24-hour period of time for the first time, trying to fast for 24 hours more than twice a week. In fact, studies found that people who fasted that way were up to 4 times more likely to binge eat compared to those who don't. Here's why. Long fasts deplete the raw materials that your brain uses to make serotonin. That's your feel-good chemical. When serotonin dips, your brain starts shouting for quick carbs, bread, pasta, sweets, and then your willpower is no match for it. The good news, though, is that your body eventually adapts. And after about 2 weeks of consistent fasting, hunger levels start to settle, and the drive to overeat isn't nearly as strong. Until that happens, though, here are 3 simple ways that you can stay in control. 1, plan ahead. Decide what you'll break your fast with before you even start the fast so that your cravings don't make the choice for you. Number 2, don't double up. If you skip a meal, keep your next one the normal size. Doubling up on your portion sizes only just undoes all your hard work. And then number 3, follow the basics. Start with protein. It triggers fullness, the hormones that help shut down the cravings, and then add some healthy fats, omega-3s I really love at this point, and then make sure you have fiber-rich carbohydrates to stay full without gorging yourself or spiking your blood sugar levels. This ties back to the first mistake that we discussed, trying to do too much too soon. When you jump into fasting too aggressively, overeating like this is almost guaranteed. But when you start smaller and you give your body time to adjust, hunger becomes much easier to manage. That allows you to make fasting a long-term habit, both for burning fat and improving your health. Now, we just talked about how water and electrolytes can make fasting more smooth, but that's only the beginning. There's actually a whole list of fasting approved drinks that not only keep you in fat burning mode, but can actually amplify your results. And then some help control cravings. Some boost your metabolism, and others just protect your body while you're fasting. So if you're planning on fasting, then you need to know what these are and which ones to avoid. I cover all of them in my other video, 15 intermittent fasting drinks that deliver massive benefits. I'll include a link to that right here. Click to watch it next, and I'll see you over there.